If you've ever felt overwhelmed by information, even though you're capable of understanding complex things, you're not alone. In fact, many of the people who feel the most overwhelmed by information are the ones who think the most. That sounds backwards at first. We tend to assume that intelligence protects us from overwhelm, that if someone is capable of learning, analyzing, and understanding ideas, they should be able to handle more information without difficulty. But the reality is almost the opposite. The people who often feel the most pressure from information are the ones whose minds are constantly trying to understand it. The problem isn't intelligence. The problem is exposure. We are living in an environment where information is no longer scarce. It is constant. News updates arrive every minute. Articles, podcasts, videos, newsletters, research papers, social feeds, AI-generated insights, all of it arriving faster than any one person could realistically process. And every piece of information asks something from your mind. Not necessarily attention for long periods of time, but evaluation. Is this important? Is this useful? Is this something I should learn? Should I save this for later? Should I ignore it? Those tiny evaluations happen constantly throughout the day. Most of the time we barely notice them, but they accumulate. And accumulation is where overwhelm begins. Because modern information isn't just something we consume, it's something we evaluate. Your brain is constantly filtering signals from noise, ideas from opinions, opportunities from distractions. And that filtering process requires energy. Now, here's where intelligence enters the picture. People who think deeply tend to explore ideas more thoroughly. When they encounter new information, they don't just skim it. They ask questions. They compare perspectives. They consider implications. They connect ideas together. This is a strength. But it also means their minds naturally process more variables when information appears. In other words, intelligence increases sensitivity to complexity. A curious mind notices layers that others might skip over. It sees nuance. It sees possibility. It sees potential consequences. And while that depth of thinking is valuable, it also increases cognitive load. Because every additional layer your mind considers is another variable your brain has to hold. That's the paradox many intelligent people experience today. The more capable their minds are, the more information their minds attempt to process. And the modern environment presents far more information than any brain evolved to handle. Think about how many sources of input exist now compared to even 20 years ago. Before, most information arrived in limited channels: books, newspapers, television, direct conversation. Today, information arrives through dozens of digital streams simultaneously. Email, messaging platforms, social feeds, video platforms, online articles, AI tools generating summaries, ideas, and variations instantly. The result is not just more information, it's more context per decision. You might read an article and instantly wonder if there are 5 better ones. You might watch a video and see 10 recommended alternatives. You might generate an AI response and suddenly have multiple directions you could explore. Every option multiplies the mental space around a choice, and when options multiply, so does the work your brain has to do to prioritize them. This is where cognitive saturation begins. Cognitive saturation happens when the amount of incoming information exceeds the brain's ability to comfortably filter it. The result isn't necessarily confusion. Often it's something subtler, a feeling of mental pressure, a sense that there is always more to learn, more to read, more to understand. A feeling that no matter how much you absorb, there is always something else you might be missing. This pressure is one reason many intelligent people feel like they are constantly behind. Not because they are actually behind, but because the environment constantly exposes them to new ideas and possibilities. And every new idea introduces a new mental branch. Should I learn this? Should I try that? Should I explore this direction instead? Each branch demands evaluation, and evaluation consumes attention. This is why simply gathering more information rarely solves the feeling of overwhelm. When people feel uncertain or confused, their instinct is often to search for more answers. More articles, more advice, more research, more perspectives. But additional information doesn't automatically resolve complexity. In many cases, it expands it, because each new perspective introduces new variables, and more variables make filtering harder. The real issue is not the quantity of information. It's the absence of a clear filtering system. Filtering is the quiet skill that determines whether information empowers you or overwhelms you. A strong filter answers simple questions quickly. Does this matter? Is this relevant right now? Is this something worth deeper attention? Or is it something I can safely ignore? Most people try to solve information overload by increasing discipline. They try to read faster, consume more efficiently, organize more tools. But discipline doesn't reduce input. Filtering does. Filtering reduces the number of signals your brain treats as important. And when fewer signals feel important, the pressure begins to drop. This is where clear thinking becomes powerful. Clear thinkers do not attempt to absorb everything. They decide what deserves attention. And more importantly, they decide what does not. That decision alone dramatically reduces cognitive load. Because once something is filtered out, it stops demanding mental energy. You don't need to debate it. You don't need to evaluate it repeatedly. You simply move past it. This is the skill that becomes increasingly valuable as the world becomes more information-dense. The ability to encounter large volumes of information without feeling responsible for processing all of it. This doesn't mean ignoring curiosity. It means directing curiosity intentionally. You choose the ideas that deserve exploration. You choose the topics that matter most for your current direction. Everything else becomes background noise. And this is also where artificial intelligence enters the equation. AI dramatically increases the number of possible outputs available to you. You can generate dozens of ideas, drafts, solutions, or strategies in seconds. But that multiplication only helps if your filter is strong. Without filtering, AI simply creates more options for your brain to evaluate. With filtering, it accelerates clarity, because you can quickly refine toward what matters. The difference isn't the tool, it's the thinker using it. Some people feel scattered when using powerful tools. Others feel empowered. The difference is not intelligence, it's selectivity. Empowered thinkers discard quickly. They narrow the field. They refine direction. Scattered thinkers try to consider every possibility, and every possibility carries cognitive weight. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by information, it's important to recognize something. That feeling does not mean you are incapable. It often means the opposite. It means your mind is sensitive to complexity. It means you are aware of possibilities. It means you notice nuance. Those traits are strengths, but they require one additional skill to remain sustainable: filtering. The ability to encounter information without feeling obligated to process all of it. The ability to choose a few ideas that matter deeply and allow the rest to pass by. When that skill strengthens, the information environment begins to feel lighter. Because the world may be noisy, but your attention becomes selective. And selective attention is one of the most powerful thinking tools available today. The modern world will continue producing more information. That part will not slow down. But clarity has never depended on knowing everything. It has always depended on knowing what matters. And once that becomes clear, information stops feeling overwhelming. It simply becomes material. Material you can choose from. Material you can ignore. Material you can shape into something meaningful. That is where thinking becomes powerful again.